Well, hello there. I am Jamain. This is the recap. Today on the recap, we are looking at Theme for English B by Langston Hughes. Who was Langston Hughes? Langston Hughes was actually an African American poet. He was a social activist, he was a playwright, etc. Most importantly, he was one of the founders of the Harlem Renaissance. For those of you who do not know, the Harlem Renaissance was actually an intellectual movement founded in Harlem, New York in the 1920s or thereabouts. The group sought to create a new black identity, especially when that black identity was desperately needed. Hughes was one of the first poets to actually use a jazz rhythm style in his poetry. He stressed, especially in this poem, racial pride, and he also showed how diverse the black culture can actually be, how diverse the black people can actually be. And in this poem, particularly, we are trying to examine how a typical college student, a typical black college student, found it difficult to actually get a basic education. Luckily, it's not so today, but it used to be so not so very long ago. Today is the 27th day of August in the year 2017. Let's go into Theme for English B by Langston Hughes. The instructor said, "Go home and write a page tonight, and let that page come out of you. Then it will be true." I wonder if it's that simple. I am 22, colored, born in Winston-Salem. I went to school there, then Durham, then here to this college on the hill above Harlem. I am the only colored student in my class. The steps from the hill lead down into Harlem. Through a park, then I cross St. Nicholas, 8th Avenue, 7th, then I come to the Y, Harlem Branch Y, where I take the elevator up to my room, sit down and write this page. It's not easy to know what is true for you or me at 22, my age, but I guess I am what I feel and see and hear. Harlem, I hear you, hear me. We too, you, me, talk on this page. I hear New York too. Me who? Well, I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. I like a pipe for a Christmas present, or records, Bessie, Bop, or Bach. I guess being colored doesn't make me not like the same things other folks like who are other races. So, will my page be colored that I write? Being me, it will not be white. But it will be a part of you, instructor. You are white. Yet a part of me, as I am a part of you. That's American. Sometimes perhaps you don't want to be a part of me, nor do I often want to be a part of you. But we are. That's true. As I learned from you, I guess you learned from me, although you're older and white and somewhat more free. This is my page for English B. In analyzing theme for English B, we see that the persona is basically a young African American man who seems to be candid. He seems to also be open minded. He also seems to be philosophical in his thinking. And we gather all of that because of how brilliantly this poem was actually constructed. So he was given an instruction to write a page. And in doing this page, he wrote a poem. And the poem appears to be an interesting one because it not only completes the task, but it also shows us what is evident or the struggles the individual has to face. So, the mood. How does the poem make me feel? Really, it makes me feel self assured. It makes me feel a little bit of pride, but it also makes me feel a bit frustrated to know how much this individual has to struggle. The tone is an upbeat one, it's confident, sometimes it's sarcastic, but let's go into the content of it. So he was given an instruction and he had to complete that page for homework or an assignment. And he asks, or he's challenging the simplicity of this assignment. So he says he wonders if it's that simple. And then he goes on to give an autobiography. So he's saying he is colored and he's 22 and he's born in Winston-Salem. He went to school there, then to Durham, then to this college on the hill. So he's showing you how much he has changed. He has moved from one school to the next school as he grew older. And now he's saying, I am the only colored student in my class. That tells us exactly what that is telling us. And he's showing us the steps from the hill lead down into Harlem. So he's going up the hill to go to school, and then he's going down back the hill to go back home, to probably tell us that no matter how high this individual, this black man, tries to climb academically, he still has to know where he's from. He still has to know his place. That's sad, huh? He's telling us that no matter how he thinks he's moving from one level to another level as he gets an education, because he's black, he always has to come back down to the ghetto, back down to where he is from, Harlem. You see the difficulties he has to go through to go to school every day. He has to travel through the 8th Avenue, the 7th, then the Y, and of course he has to pass the park, and then he has to go up the hill and all of that, and he has to come back down again, pass the branch Y, then go up to the elevator. It shows us how determined this individual was to actually get an education. So this first line here, we are seeing that he's saying it's not easy to know what is true for you or me. This true, how do we examine the word true? What might be true to you might not necessarily be true to me. So he's saying it is not easy, it is not without struggle to know what is true. And when we say true, we're actually talking about what the definite truth is. The definite truth to you might be different to the truth to me. And he's actually going on to say at the age of 22, but he says he guess he is what he feels. This is where I talked about that uncertainty earlier. And here we are seeing that. He says, I guess. I'm not quite sure what that truth for me is, but I guess it is what I feel, I guess it's what I see, I guess it's what I hear. Harlem. And then he's going to repeat Harlem a few more times coming down to the end. So we think that's repetitive. Repetitive in the sense that he's emphasizing the profound impact, and that's a device. Emphasizing the profound impact Harlem has had on his personal development. All right, so it's as though he's telling us that no matter how much he grows older, he cannot really undo the impact Harlem has had on him. All right, he says, and he's asking some rhetorical questions here. Me, who? That rhetorical question there. He is somewhat unsure of who he is. For some reason, unsure because probably he is somewhat daunted by the way people treat him. So yes, he highlights these questions to show how confused he is in his character. He's unsure about who he might actually be, what individual he might actually be. But he goes on to brilliantly say, I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. That is just a beautiful line. And why is it exactly so beautiful? Because it tells us how simple, how normal this guy is. He eats, he sleeps, he drinks, and he likes to be in love. Everybody eats, drinks, sleeps, wants to be in love. Everybody wants to be adored. So that is showing us that he is not unlike anyone else. He is simply like everyone else. I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. And that might be a little different now. He's showing us that he might just be better than the other persons. Because, yes, he's showing us, and that's where the physiological or the philosophical, tongue-tied, sorry, philosophical thinking comes in, because he is philosophically showing us that despite people seeing him as different, he's quite normal in that first line, like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. But in the second line now, he's saying work. He likes to work, and not many persons like to work. So even though he is like everyone else, he is very much different because he is hardworking. He likes to read, and he likes to try and understand the life he's dealt. But he comes back to this simplicity now. I like a pipe for a Christmas present like everyone else. He's trying to show us that. And he's also trying to show us that he likes bop music, Bach music, Bessie music. So to show us again, the music everyone else enjoys, he also enjoys. And he brilliantly sums it all up by saying, being colored does not make me not like the things other folks like who are other races. Brilliant. So will my page be colored that I write? That's an interesting rhetorical question, because it's trying to show us that the persona is wondering whether his race will affect what he writes on his page. This is despite the fact that he concludes that his race does not hinder people, or does that the race he is does not hinder who he's actually going to be. So he's kind of confused. He's saying what? Would my race impact what I write? Would it be white? Would it be black? Let's go on to see what he's talking about. Another thing I want to bring out that I just didn't talk about is the fact that pipe smoking back in time was actually a sophisticated thing to do. So not everybody used to smoke pipe, and here we are seeing that he says he likes a pipe for a Christmas present to show us just how sophisticated he can be. Alright, so that's an interesting point to note there. Being me, it will not be white. He's talking about the page. For him to be true to himself, he cannot write a white page. That's what he's trying to tell us. But it will be a part of you, instructor. You are white. He's confessing the instructor is white. Yet a part of me, as I am a part of you. Here we see that kind of modesty. Here we see that kind of pride. He says, I am a part of you as you are a part of me. No matter how you try, how much you don't like me, we cannot separate each other. And he's trying to show that is the American view. That is American because we are living in the same country, and we must learn to get along with each other. We must learn to respect each other. All right? Sometimes perhaps you don't want to be a part of me. He's confessing that. And he's saying that, yes, just because you don't want to be a part of me, I might not always want to be a part of you either. But we are. And he's saying that word again, true. Again, you don't want to be a part of me, that's truth. But I don't want to also be a part of you, that's also true. But in this sense, we are a part of each other's lives, and we cannot dismiss that thought. We cannot erase that truth. As I learned from you, I guess you learned from me. That is interesting. Remember, this is the instructor he's talking about. So obviously the instructor will teach him something. But again, he's saying, I guess, unsure a bit, somewhat, but he's saying, I guess you learned from me. Now, what can this instructor possibly learn from this black child? And that's a somewhat ironic a device. The instructor is the one actually who is doing the teaching, so he cannot possibly learn a lot from this black child. But I guess what this boy is trying to show us here, what the person is trying to show us, is that this individual, this instructor, can just well might learn some amount of humility. He might somewhat learn to be humble. He might learn to be confident, because we have seen that quite evident there. Even though this boy is black, he is not daunted. He is not discouraged by his race, and he's simply going to school to learn so he can actually be better than he actually is currently. So I guess the instructor can possibly learn that from the boy. Although you're older and white and somewhat more free. That's somewhat more free, very much ironic. Of course, the instructor is immensely more free. He is definitely more free than this black struggling college student. But we see that this boy is hinting to us, innuendo, hinting to us that the instructor, thinking that he is better than this black child, is not free in his mind. He's not free because he's holding the view that the white race is superior. As a result, that there is enslaving him. That thought of being superior is enslaving him. So indeed, that is somewhat more free. The black child, even though he is enslaved to some extent, yes, it's after slavery, but even though he's not given the same privilege as other individuals might be, that's what I say slave, I mean, he is still viewing the white man as normal. He's still viewing himself as normal. He's not bringing down anyone. He's not hating on anyone. So this guy is immensely free in terms of free thinking, that word again, philosophical thinking there. He's bringing that out to us by trying to show us that he views himself as free compared to this white man who thinks he's above anyone else. This is my page for English B, he concludes. We can compare this poem, Theme for English B, to other poems such as Dreamin' Black Boy, under themes such as racism, discrimination, places. Remember, we are seeing racism in this poem as we are seeing racism in Dreamin' Black Boy, but what we see is a humility in both of these individuals, the fact that they just simply want to be treated like everyone else and they want to get a basic education so they can be educated to the best of what they can possibly can. In Dreamin' Black Boy, we heard the phrase "best of tune-up," so you can earn good money. In this here, we are seeing that he is struggling. He's going uphill, downhill, just to get an education, and he simply wants to be successful by getting that education. Right? Discrimination, because we see somewhat the teacher in Dreamin' Black Boy treated the boy as though he was not even present in class, and here we see you have to write a page, and this page you're writing on a white page, and really if you put yourself on this page, then you're somewhat giving out your secret of what you are, and you might be judged, you might be isolated by this white instructor, and he's somewhat not sure whether he should put himself out there to be judged by this instructor, or whether or not he should just simply contain himself. So discrimination there, he's unsure whether or not he should put himself out to be discriminated, but he is going to do it anyway, and he's saying that the instructor is somewhat free because the instructor thinks he's better than he actually is. Places, the boy wants to obviously travel the world. The boy is obviously at this point here, well, the guy in Dreamin' Black Boy said it extensively, he wanted to travel the world. Here we see though that this individual is going up above where he's living, coming down back to where he's living after school, to show us how he's struggling to get an education. Alright, and the places, despite how much he travels, despite how much he's working hard, he still has to know his place, the place where he's from, the ghetto. I do hope your philosophical thinking was actually improved by listening to this poem, Theme for English B by Langston Hughes. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Go ahead and comment. Tell me what you think of this review. Please don't criticize my pronunciation. Subscribe so you can get updates on future video postings. And thank you very much for listening. Bye.